What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to attempt to replace the insulation on the engine bay lid because the factory insulation on this 2008 Yamaha AR230 is getting pretty bad, so I want to rip it out and replace it. So first I'm going to play a quick clip of this boat driving with the factory bad insulation. Then we're going to go ahead and rip it all off, replace it, and see how the new insulation does. So without further ado, let's jump in and let's get it done. Okay, so this is the underneath of the engine compartment lid here. And as you can see, this factory stuff is just wet and falling apart. It's literally just dropping down and making a big mess of the motor compartment here. It's falling off. It's just dry rotted and soaked, and it's just really bad. So what I'm gonna do is take my shop vac and try to scrape all that off and suck it all up. And then I'm gonna go in here and start cleaning my engine bay. So once all that's done and clean, we're going to come back and we're going to install some self-adhesive sound deadening insulation on this outer lid here underneath. And hopefully getting rid of all this old insulation will help keep the motor bay a little bit more clean, but it will also help lower some of the sound that these motors can put off. So let me start cleaning this up and we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. So now that we got all of the factory old insulation taken off the hatch here, now we just have to attach some new sound deadening insulation to the hatch. Now I started with this kit right here. Again, I'm not sure if this is going to be enough, but I didn't want to buy two kits just in case the first kit wasn't working out or I didn't like the product or whatever the case might be. This is a self-adhesive sound deadening insulation with the aluminum backing for heat dissipation and so forth. But I did go ahead and buy some 3M super strength spray on adhesive just for a little extra stick. All I'm really going to do is try to open this up, line it up as best I can and start sticking it into place. And then I have some scissors and then I have a utility knife here that I'll try to cut it so that it fits the shape a little bit better up to this point right here. If I like how it sounds and I like how it adheres to the hatch, I might actually buy another kit of this and start adding additional insulation on the back wall back here and maybe on the side walls. So again, I'm not jumping too far ahead here. All I really want to do is try to get this sound deadening insulation mounted to the hatch and see how that does. And then if I like how it sounds, I'll come back and add more down here later. So let me start getting this out of the package and let me see how it mounts to the hatch. Okay, so initial thoughts so far. I like it. It actually is very sticky. The adhesive on the back of this insulation is sticking very, very well. And this is a pretty big sheet of sound deadening insulation. I mean, it folds open pretty wide. I mean, you can see how thick this is. I mean, this is definitely a pretty thick insulation. It feels good. I like the aluminum backing. And so far, the paper is peeling off very easily. Initial impressions, this sound deadening insulation is pretty good so far. And again, the price on this is pretty reasonable. And I'll put a link in the description of this video if you want to see the link to see what the updated price might be on it. But overall, this is a cost-effective sound deadening insulation that you can put in your boat. So far, so good. So all I have to do now is do this part here in the underneath. And then what I'll do is I'll take the boat out this week, test it out, see how it sounds. And if I like it, I'll take whatever's left over and start adding it to this back deck over here. But again, if I have to, I'll buy even more because it's not that expensive. So let me keep working on this and I'll be right back. Okay, so here's where we're at so far. So far, so good. I just cut a small strip across the top. I did this section here and rolled it under all the way underneath like this. So most of it's a continuous run, but around a couple of the brackets and around some of these bends, due to the contours that are kind of weird and misshaped, it's hard to keep one continuous run. So I had to cut a few slots and patch a little bit in these little corners over here and over here. Little space right here where I had to kind of cut around the brackets. But overall, everything's sticking pretty well and doing pretty good. It is an extremely hot, humid, muggy day here in Western Pennsylvania. We've had some ridiculously hot, humid weather this summer. So it's in the 90s and humid. So again, some of this adhesive is letting loose a little bit. So I keep basically going back under here and just kind of taking my hand and pressing it on there until that adhesive really starts to stick. But it is doing a pretty good job so far. The next thing I want to do to kind of blend in some of these creases is I have a roll of aluminum tape. So I'm going to go ahead and cut some strips of that and fill in some of these little gaps along here and maybe around the outer edges so that the aluminum foil backing here doesn't like peel off. And then I'm going to come up under here and add some aluminum foil tape there as well. But so far it's working out pretty good and I'm pretty happy with how it's all going. So let me go ahead and add some of the aluminum foil tape here and I'll come back with an update here in a minute. Okay, so we're back and we're pretty much done at this point. Now, the bolts for the bottom of your seats, okay, they come out the bottom like this. At first, I accidentally just went over top of all of that with the insulation, but after everything was done, I just basically kind of pressed on the insulation and poked the bolt through the insulation hole. And then I just went in with my socket, took the nut off. I was able to wedge out the washer. I put the washer back over top and placed the bolt back down. So I was able to get all of the bolts and washers mounted back on, which will also help hold this insulation to the deck a lot better. But everything looks really good right now. I have all of the little crevices that I had cut out around the brackets and around the corners down here. I have all of that taped up real nice with the aluminum tape. That worked out great and it really created a good seal on everything. So far the insulation is sticking pretty well and the tape kind of just sealed everything off really good. So now that we're at this point here, we're gonna go ahead and take the boat out. We're gonna try it out and just see if it makes any difference in terms of keeping some of the heat from the engines from really coming out and making this area warm and noticeable to the passengers. And I wanted to just see if this insulation quiets down on the engine noise at all. And it might not, because these twin MR1 jet engines here on this AR230 are very loud at full throttle. So I don't know if you're really gonna be able to quiet them down too much, but any little bit counts. So I'm gonna take the boat out real quick and we're gonna test it out and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. So at the end of the day, the insulation did a really good job. I think it did a really good job at keeping a lot of that heat inside the engine bay. None of my passengers felt like they felt any warmth or heat coming from the deck or anything like that. So that worked out pretty good. The engines are still pretty loud, and at full throttle, you still have to raise your voice a little bit in order to have a conversation with your passengers on the boat. But the insulation is still doing a really good job, and it looks a lot better than the deteriorating insulation that was on here before, and it's not flaking off and getting down into the engine bay and making a big mess. So in terms of the insulation doing a good job sticking and keeping the heat inside the engine bay, it's doing a great job. As far as sound deadening insulation, I don't know if it made a huge difference, but maybe a little difference, if any. So what I might still end up doing is taking some of the excess insulation that I still have and maybe doubling it up inside this deck to see if that helps at all. But again, at the end of the day, it won't hurt. But I'd say for today's purpose of getting this insulation replaced, it was a success. So at the end of the day, my overall impressions of this sound deadening insulation, I definitely give it a thumbs up and give it a go. But that's going to be it for today's video. I hope this video helps some of you out. Do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button and like this video. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments section and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And also do me a favor, subscribe to the channel because it definitely helps me out and I greatly appreciate it. So that's it. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you. I truly appreciate you all. And as always, see you in the next video.